A lot of news I'm going to be getting into on the police state, on Eric Holder leaving, on a bizarre beheading in Oklahoma, the latest on ISIS, Argentina using drones to root out, quote, wealthy tax evaders. We told you drones have been used and will be used to find out if your swimming pool's green or if you're not paying taxes on all those grapevines. And the establishment's answer is to run around saying none of that exists. It's a conspiracy theory. They treat you like children. We don't. Speaking of the police state, Pentagon set to deliver millions more in military gear to 12 colleges and public schools. MRAPs, giant wheeled tanks. Oh, but nothing's going on in the country. Sound cannons, microwave guns, underground bases, training to suppress political speech, kill switches in the internet, government announcements taking over smartphones and television and cable, radio. If you would have made a movie about this 25 years ago and shown it to people, they'd have said, man, that's a horrible dystopia. But see, there's two parallels. There's still a free society, people that exercise the First Amendment who aren't intimidated, operating, and then you got the new parallel system of classical, flaming, over-the-top oppression, the opposite of a free society. We know where it leads every time. We've got all that going on. We've got all that unfolding while there's a huge awakening taking place at the same time. So amazing. And then a lot of days I come in here and look at 7, 8 big stacks of news. They basically go around to mainstream news, alternative government documents, the tip box, whatever I send in, what's on Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, DrudgeReport.com, WorldNet Daily, and others. And I see a theme emerge every day, a lot of different themes, but a big one is the CIA just declassified a few weeks ago, and we just learned of it yesterday, that they were targeting Gary Webb for his Dark Alliance stories on CIA drug trafficking, and that they did have the LA Times work for him to try to destroy him. And, of course, then he was shot twice in the head by a shotgun, and they said that's quite normal. I mean, they could have me running down the hall and shoot me maybe 10 times with a shotgun and have witnesses, and they'd say, Alex shot himself. I mean, it's pure bull. I will never commit suicide. I just want that on record if they find me with a suicide note and 3 gunshots to the head, or my arms and legs chopped off and gasoline poured on me. Like Fahmy Malek, remember in Arkansas, Clinton's medical examiner? He would find that people with their arms and legs chopped off in a trash can had committed suicide. In plastic bags, in a trash can. Let me explain something. You can't chop your arms and legs off and then put yourself in a trash bag, put yourself in a trash can, unless you're in a Monty Python movie. It's merely a flesh wound. And he's chopped both arms and legs off, and he's hopping around on nubs. I shouldn't even joke about this. It's the age of 2 + 2 = 5, so why not? Maybe you can. And then that integrates in with this story. COINTELPRO revisited. Greenwald exposes with the new NSA documents how they target and harass the press. Believe me, I've experienced it. But it's kind of like mosquitoes biting you at the beach or something. I've gotten used to it. But I mean, reading this is like reading my life. And then Rob Schneider, who I'm a big fan of, came out and said we're in a police state, warned of vaccines. So they ran a CIA, FBI op to get him fired off State Farm. And it's all in the documents, just right here. The CIA has declassified 2 weeks ago. We just learned of it. Took that long for the media to pick it up. Managing a nightmare, the CIA reveals how it watched over the destruction of Gary Webb, working with state-run media like the LA Times to destroy the Pulitzer Prize winner when he exposed CIA drug dealing. And by the way, I interviewed Gary Webb many times. He wanted me to build him a website with all his documents when his new book came out that was going to prove and validate and vindicate him. So they went to his house and shot him twice in the head and called it a suicide. But now it's been declassified, hundreds of pages of documents, how they destroyed him. So great job. What patriots you are. And that integrates in with this story that Kurt Nimmo wrote. COINTELPRO revisited. Greenwald exposes with new NSA documents the NSA agenda to destroy journalists. Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group engages in everything from trolling to honey traps. And if you're a journalist promoting basic Bill of Rights and Constitution, you are to be destroyed. Now, again, this is all completely illegal, completely un-American, just like the warrantless spying, just like saying veterans are the main terror threat. This is an illegitimate criminal offshore banking cartel that's taken over the nation, just like the Vichy French were collaborators with the Nazis. The French just stood down in World War II, folks. They didn't even fight because 90% of their generals, almost all of them, were already paid off by the Nazis. They then got to run the country. That's how Hitler, weeks after the French invasion, could come tour France, and the police were there, the French police, controlling the roads for him and giving him security. This is what Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and the Bank of England and others have done. They run the country. We are occupied. In their own words, Carroll Quigley said that in 1965 when he published Tragedy and Hope, or 1966. Read the book. This is all public. They just think you're too stupid to know it. It is so frustrating to see this. And then that integrates in with Rob Schneider, the popular comedian and movie star, dropped from State Farm ads. Guess why? Schneider had the guts and intelligence to criticize the police state and to say we're turning into a fascist country and to say that vaccines were damaging people. So there was an organized online campaign by you-know-who, the insurance companies and banks and Homeland Security Cyber Command, to lobby for State Farm to drop him. So they've now dropped him to send a message. You sit down and you shut up. As an American, you don't have a right to say we're going fascist, which we publicly are. You don't have a right to say that vaccines need to be investigated. You're fired. And if America is intimidated by this, we will lose everything. We will lose everything. Here's Schneider on CBS News. May 2nd of this year, Rob Schneider tells Chris Stiegel, we are sliding very fast towards fascism. Well, here's an article right here, CBS News. Pentagon set to deliver scores more MRAPs to colleges and high schools. I mean, the NSA is warrantlessly spying on us. They got drones watching farmers. I told you 2 years ago that my dad got a visit by Homeland Security, and they said, we want to enroll you. We want to give you a card. We want to pay you. We want you to go to meetings monthly. And we want you to basically HUMAT, human intelligence, domestically and to spy on your patients. And my dad said, well, who am I going to spy on if I did this? Like terrorists or something? And they said, no, just everybody. We want to know their political views, what they're doing, what they're thinking. And my dad then came to me and he said, are they trying to set me up? And I said, go around and ask other dentists you know and call around to other lead dentists and oral surgeons and medical doctors and see if they're all getting calls or physical visits. And he did it. And most of them have been visited, including at their homes. And most of them were very honored and thought it was patriotic because, you know, Jack Bauer tortures people on Fox TV to keep us safe. And so it's fun to get your little card and go to the meetings like the clergy response team and to sit in the room with the FBI or the CIA and work on continuity of government. So how dare Rob Schneider? How dare him in his own free time say he's concerned about vaccines and knows people whose children were fine and got shots and couldn't talk anymore? How dare him be involved as an American and have free speech, period? How dare him? That is so un-American, and I'm glad he's lost that contract. I hope he's run out of the business and fired, maybe even put in prison, because that's what a free country is all about. And how dare him say that it's fascist that they silence people in America now that say we're turning into a fascist country. Of course, that totally proves we're becoming a fascist country, but just how dare him say 2 + 2 = 4 or 1 + 1 = 2? How dare him? And of course, I'm being sarcastic. It's like the federal judge in the Dinesh D'Souza filmmaker case. They played a clip of Fox News and a clip of my show. This is in the transcripts of the judge's ruling, where D'Souza said, I'm being set up and being politically persecuted. And the judge said, because you did that, I'm going to give you an 8-month sentence, locked up in one of these little mega prisons. But Orwellian style, they don't call it a prison. So he escaped jail time, the headlines were, total bull. Oh, you're not a political prisoner. We're just going to lock you up for 8 months and make you go to psychological therapy to cure you directly out of the Soviet Union. And 5 years probation. And the judge said, we're not political, but you went and spoke out, so we're going to throw the book at you. And don't worry, MSNBC has come out and said that Eric Holder was never political. That's right. And the Jolly Green Giant isn't green. The Hulk is green, folks. Whenever I said 2 + 2 = 4, my son said, no, I get it. The Hulk is green. And that's what we're faced with. How dare you say that we should look at vaccines as damaging people and look at the studies? How dare you say we're becoming fascist? So the big vaccine makers and others are going to get together and use Facebook and Twitter to hammer his sponsor and to get him kicked off the air. Well, the answer to this is anyone who has State Farm, to do it, to not be lazy, to call State Farm and say, listen, I'm not going to argue with you. I just want, in an email and a call, I'm going to switch my insurance now. I'm not going to be lazy, and I'm going to go off State Farm because State Farm is allowing people to be punished for their clearly legitimate and tasteful political speech, saying America's becoming a fascist system and America needs to look at vaccines. There is a mystery illness all over the United States, and even NBC News admits it's linked to vaccinated kids. I mean, should I be thrown off the air for saying that? So later in the broadcast, bottom of the hour, I'm going to get into this in detail. Gary Webb confirmed, targeted by a Mockingbird operation, that's government-run media, to be destroyed before they killed him, to stop his book coming out. And I was talking to Freeway Ricky Ross. I was talking to Gary Webb 4 or 5 months before he died. And Gary said, I want to come on your show when this happens. I want you to, he sent me a disc. It was just of news articles and clippings and things. Nothing secret. I want you to build a Dark Alliance website for me. I want you to put these documents up. I said, sure, I'll help you. Well, don't do it till I'm ready. My book proves it all and more, how the big banks run it all. He was on, the government was listening. They heard the call. How he discovered that the whole thing is run, not just cocaine. We know that from Sibel Edmonds and other NSA whistleblowers, the white slavery, everything. And they shot him twice in the head. And here it all is. The LA Times is being interviewed with the reporters saying, I'm sorry I worked with the CIA to discredit him. I feel bad about it now. Oh, you feel bad about it now? You feel bad? But it's like, oh, the CIA is here. Oh, yes, sir. Let me discredit someone because you said so. Oh, the FBI is here. Yes, you're the good guys. Let me salute you. Oh, bring in the toady jury for the federal trial with 90+% conviction rates who would literally send the 2-year-old to the gas chamber if ordered to. Let's bring in these hand-picked, controlled bunch of perps who've all been blackmailed by the feds, these kept juries. Let's bring in some federal juries to convict whoever we say. By the way, I said a 90+. I think it's a 97% conviction rate in this country. Do you believe in any country? Only places like North Korea have 97% conviction rates, and the U.S. Do you understand that? Totally illegitimate, totally criminal, totally fraudulent. And now, though, it hadn't eaten the country yet. This foreign takeover hasn't had the big butchering of the hog yet. They're just building up with the vehicles, the armored bases, the training, the preparations, the psychological warfare, the internet kill switches, the takeover grids, and they're just trying to get the military and police in line for the final takeover when they set the nukes off, shoot up the churches and schools, and blame it on the liberty movement. They're just getting ready for the mega false flag in the culture of total dishonor. But what blew my dad away is that the Homeland Security person that came to visit him, and my dad called, and the person was, quote, with Homeland Security, was so unprofessional and so ridiculous, kind of like a Barney Fife meets Hitler, in that he didn't even know that David Jones was Alex Jones's father. And see, my dad thought it was some setup or something to get him to go to Homeland Security meetings and that they knew who he was. And I said, no, they're going to make the dog catcher a CIA agent, because it gives all these weak-minded people incredible confidence to commit all sorts of un-American activities, to just give them their little InfraGard card. And they got a lot of well-meaning people involved 12, 13 years ago after 9/11 for the terror threat of al-Qaeda. But we were pointing out who really ran al-Qaeda and allowed them to attack bare minimum. But once they got the pump primed, we were sent the syllabuses. We published them 8, 9 years ago of farming communities. And it was later in the Associated Press, where they would get them to a local hotel, all the old farmers and ranchers, and they'd show them al-Qaeda training videos for the first 10 minutes while they had donuts and coffee. Then they'd shift to, is your neighbor growing marijuana? Do they spank their kids? Are they green? Did they build a barn they weren't supposed to? And all these old-timers would go, what in the world? This is some kind of commie meeting. So they get you in. Come on in. We're going to fight al-Qaeda. And you get in there, and they're like, here's the enemy. Veterans, gun owners, returning retired police, you name it. Anybody that might be able to fight a fascist takeover. With socialism at the grassroots. I just got chills. Because here's Reuters today. U.S. Homeland Security moves to tackle climate change and to begin criminal prosecution of people that drop a battery in your yard, that don't recycle. Remember the Audi green police ads 5 years ago at the Super Bowl? Showing people being arrested for their hot tub being too hot? And then I said, that's real. In areas of Europe, they've already banned toasters and barbecue pits and space heaters, and they're already arresting people who have too big a hot tub or have the wrong light bulbs. And then the mayor came out with the head of the PR firm where they made the Audi commercial, the Green Police Audi commercial, in the San Francisco Chronicle, and said, this is what we're going to do. We're putting out social messages to prepare you for the new way. See, when I say that ad's real, I knew it was a PR propaganda piece before it was admitted. Not because I'm even smart. I know what these people are up to. I've watched them so long. Austin, New York City, San Francisco are going to raise property taxes and regulations to where a 250 square foot apartment is going to be $10,000 a month. They're in Community Impact, that's the local Agenda 21 brainwashing progressive free newspaper that sells prosperity through this, saying macro problem, micro solution. Tiny apartment concept gains interest from city officials. So they'll give the developers a free ride on taxes and stuff, and Bloomberg's involved, for these literal prison complexes, 250 square foot. Notice this says smaller than 400 square feet. Yeah, the biggest ones, the penthouses in these facilities, are 350. The smallest are 100. Literal coffins. They're building them downtown right now. Big ones. And listen, it's not so you've got more discretionary income. If you read the actuaries on all this, they're on record saying that way they get more taxes. It's so you live on less, so they get more. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars. That's what the establishment's doing, is building up its criminal network, its armored vehicles, its surveillance, its drones, its HUMET spies everywhere, converting America into the greatest totalitarian spy force of progressive control freaks running around tattling on everyone the world has ever seen. And by the way, I'm not trying to scare people here. I'm trying to get you to realize what's already happening, what's already going on. A total conversion to poverty and austerity. A total conversion to tyranny, while the elites are exempt from every stinking piece of it. We've studied East Germany and the Stasi. We've studied the Soviets. We've studied the Gestapo. We've studied other totalitarian systems. Nothing has been this ambitious. This has got to be, let's not exaggerate. Let's not exaggerate. 100 times worse than anything we've ever seen. The level of spying, the level of control, the level of actual minions and informants and agents there to lie, there to set up, there to destroy the virtuous, attack the honorable, pull down the good, as O'Brien does in 1984. A society that's more ugly, more degenerate, trampling and being trampled upon, Winston. A boot stomping on a human face forever. And I think about Rob Schneider tells Chris Stigall at CBS News, we are sliding very fast towards fascism. Schneider struck an ominous tone. He said, democracies don't end well. We are sliding towards fascism. It's an ugly kind of thing, the kind of mob mentality that we have to be careful of, he said. Well, you know where that came from? Plato and the Republic, written 2,400 years ago. It's so funny, this article's out today. Well, I'm covering Schneider being canned from an insurance company spokesman today because he said this earlier in the year. But look at what the main graphic is on Infowars.com, put up there by Kurt Nimmo. He does a daily graphic. Tyranny naturally arises out of democracy, Plato. We've got a bunch of Nazi flags marching because it was democracy that brought them to power. Rob Schneider said 2 + 2 = 4. He said what is reasoned, intellectual, and intelligent. But let me tell you what's intelligent now. What's intellectual? Supporting total fascism, calling yourself liberal, wearing socks that don't match and having a beard, and walking around in an effeminate way with your hands out at your side, going, break up families, guns are bad, men are bad, I love black uniforms, I love the choppers, I love the checkpoints, I love the torture, I love Obama, I love it, I love it. I mean, that you people are sick. You're not Nazis in black uniforms that'll actually do the killing yourselves, even though they were evil. You just sit back and live in some fantasy delusional world. Get rid of Rob Schneider. Get him fired. He, in amongst the campaigns to get him to lose his sponsorship, was the fact that he said America's becoming fascist. They convict themselves by their very words, even if you disagreed with what Schneider was saying. You shouldn't boycott him unless he's calling for taking someone's liberty. When Rosie O'Donnell called for banning the Second Amendment, I called and launched the boycott that others picked up on of Kmart, and she lost her sponsorship and shut her mouth about taking my rights. I was not trying to stop her free speech. I was showing her there'd be hell to pay. Then Rosie O'Donnell became a listener, and when she spoke out for 9/11, need to be investigated, I respected that. And when they tried to boycott her, I fought against the boycott. So you have to gauge these. It's not that a boycott's good or always bad. It's that If someone's trying to take your private property, take your children, take your guns, take your right to religion or not to be religious, if someone's trying to shut people down for their speech or their rights, then you boycott them. I have both boycotted Rosie and I have both supported Rosie. When she wanted to take my guns and your guns, I viciously went up against her and defeated her with your help. One of the first big successful things we did back in like 1999, 2000. And then when they were trying to boycott her for saying, hey, I live in New York, and I heard them say they blew up Building 7 and it needs to be investigated. And the reason I know Rosie O'Donnell's a listener is I'll just leave it at that. She is a listener. She did watch my films on 9/11 and was still angry at me that I had boycotted her on the gun issue, but said she had respect for me on the September 11th issue so we could agree to disagree. But I don't mean to go back and tell a story I've never told before. It's just that that's how I try to gauge things. It doesn't mean I always have the answers. But Rob Schneider has come out and said we're turning into fascism, that democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner, and that there's clearly something happening with these vaccines. We need to investigate them. And so there was an organized campaign to run him off the air to try to intimidate everybody else so the big corporations and government can do whatever they want, whenever they want. The answer is, just like I said with the NFL, and their ratings have been consistently down because the whole Second Amendment community is sick of it. When they got rid of Hank Williams Jr., who was very popular because of his free speech, the answer is boycott the NFL. When they promote gun control, victim disarmament, boycott them. When they promote Obamacare, boycott them. And people are boycotting them. You try to take our rights, we boycott you, we cost you money. And they've got their dirty trick campaigns behind the scenes against me, but that's to shut me down so I can't promote liberty. You see the difference? Rob Schneider dropped from State Farm ads. Guess why? State Farm Insurance will no longer run the television advertisement starring Rob Schneider because of the actor's anti-vaccination views. The move comes after a social media campaign called for Schneider to be dropped as a spokesman. Phil Supple, the insurance company's director of public affairs, told PR Week that Schneider's ad has unintentionally been used as a platform discussion unrelated to products and services we provide. He said, with that, we are working to remove the ad from the rotation at this time. Well, it's our right to drop State Farm. And if you got State Farm, folks, it's time to go get a local insurance company. Probably get a better deal anyways. Drop them. Nothing against State Farm. But we got to defend Schneider because his speech is so American. His speech is so on target. It's the great example of someone trying to help people. Tyranny naturally arises out of democracy. If you have a pure democracy, 51% can vote to enslave the other 49.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.